The story of the first ever Medal of Honor game from 1999 begins with a short intro explaining how World War II escalated due to Nazi Germany terrorizing Europe and how Great Britain managed to stop this war machine in the Battle of Britain. Then United States joined the war and we are part of that crusade. 6th June 1944, Colonel Hargrove explains how OSS works to a newly recruited Lieutenant Jimmy Patterson. Patterson attracted the OSS attention after he single-handedly dealt with half a dozen Wehrmacht in one of his missions and sneaked out of enemy territory. Patterson shows great talents in field ratings, and he also was a good student before the war and almost graduated in aerospace engineering before he enlisted. He is dropped in France. His contact in French resistance is a woman named Manon, an Allied G3 operations officer. Was shot down last night. He has knowledge of battle plans and French resistance, so he must be found before Germans get him. Patterson starts with finding the plane wreckage. The trail found there leads to the village of Dubuisson, and Manon asks Patterson to eliminate some Gestapo officers that are terrorizing what appears to be her home village. Jimmy gets through the streets killing Gestapo, and in one of the houses he finds the missing officer hiding in the basement. Unfortunately, G3 officer is in a bad shape, so Patterson has to take his attaché case and run through the sewers as his main objective is to protect the precious information. He manages to escape and complete the mission, protecting the plans of the upcoming Allied invasion. Patterson's next assignment is to destroy the German railgun Greta. It's shooting at a channel destroying Allied strategic targets, so it needs to be damaged. He goes undercover dressed as Nazi officer. Patterson can't be detected, so he can't raise any suspicion. He uses fake papers to pass the guards and quickly eliminates a few higher-ranked officers to steal their papers and gain further access. That way, he gets into the rail station. Next, he is ordered to steal a freight manifest, so the command can get the list of the metalworks that manufacture parts for Greta, as the Air Force might find that very useful. Then, still undercover, he locates a package left by resistance. It contains a sniper rifle and custom demolition charges. Sniper rifle helps him in the next part, as Germans now are aware of his presence. He can take the guards down from the far distance. Through the night, Patterson heads towards the ominous flashes that the cannon makes while shooting. He reaches the place, plants the charges on Greta reserve engine and blows it up. Then he is sent to Germany, to the U-boat docks facility in Bremen. They are building an U-boat prototype there. The mission is simply to destroy it. Jimmy goes undercover as a Kriegsmarine officer. He travels to Bremen with the ship named Wolfram, and his mission also includes sabotaging as it is one of the largest German supply ships. Patterson, using a fake documents and silent gun, reaches the engineering level and jumps the engine of the ship. Next, he locates the weapon shipped as part of the cargo bound for Daxmak and finds the facility deployment timetable in the dockside harbor master's office. Then he works his way through the U-boat production facility. He finds U-4901, engine specifics and the submarine blueprints, destroys the facility's sea door controls so they can't launch a pursuing sub, and finally finds the U-boat U-4901. Then he goes down a level and makes his way forward the bridge. He finds the controls and sets the boat to dive, and then destroys the controls with a demo charge, locking the sub into the downward trajectory. To make it out alive, he blows up the emergency ballast, and it temporarily puts the boat back on the surface. That gives him a chance to scramble before the boat goes back down again. Earlier he sent his coordinates so they knew where to pick him up. Next stop, Fort Schmerzen, well-protected German fortress equipped with everything that is needed to defend itself for months. But Allies don't need to conquer it. But they are wondering what really are Nazis hiding there, since it has levels of underground facilities. To even get to the fort, Patterson must first beat the thick forest filled with wild animals and booby traps. It's impossible to sneak through the front door, but some bunkers have secret hatches that lead directly into the fort, so Patterson looks and finds one and lets himself in. Fort is under the command of Colonel Hermann Müller. He is considered a roach even by a German high command, and he often goes weeks without reporting in. While inside, Patterson finds the radio room and sends a phony distress call pretending to be a different fort along the Siegfried line. He does it to divert any reinforcements from coming in. Then he tracks down Müller's staff orders and the operations room. Finally, he searches his personal quarters for keys to the lower levels. Turns out that Müller has converted Schmerzen into a clandestine poison gas plant. Patterson makes his way down to the lower production level and opens up both of the main storage vaults. This splits ethylene and sulfur chloride into the fort's ventilation system, so he treated them with their own medicine. Time to sabotage the Rjukan hydro plant. Allied command got an intel that Germans are building the atom bomb. Norwegian resistance reports that the facility is running at full capacity. Patterson finds his way through the outer penstock. He gains access there by shutting down the flow of water in the central pipe. Then he uses the pipe and places the chargers on 6 power relay stations and shuts down the main power grid. He gets inside the Rjukan facility. He finds the control room and turns off 3 generators. This stops the production of D2O, that is an ingredient used in the process of making the atom bomb. Then he shuts down the flow to both heating tanks. That way, D2O starts to freeze and burst pipes throughout the plant. He also demolishes the administrative offices with some charges. Then he gets an extra order to destroy the storage of the D2O they have there. Patterson reverses their flow control. Then he locates the plant emergency release valve and flushes the D2O into the storm channel. From the delivery schedule, he learns that Germans already prepared a large shipment of D2O for transport. The ferry only waits for the arrival of the icebreaker. Patterson has an hour to get to the docks and destroy the delivery vehicles on the way. While he reaches the docks, he destroys the auxiliary generator powering the dock's defensive perimeter. Then he places the charge on the ferry and demolishes the boat and the precious cargo. Now it turns out that Nazis plan to destroy the Seinburg salt mine. They use it as a storage to hide many of the art treasures they robbed all over Europe during the war. They want to plant so many explosives there that the nearby town would probably also be damaged. Patterson needs to place the demolition charges on fuel tanks. Destroying them will leave large electrical generators out of fuel. Then he must secure the paintings and sculptures. Also, Manon intels him that he may encounter the elite demolition squad of SS Panzer Corps. 3 years ago, a member of that unit killed her brother, who tried to defend children in one of the Paris schools that Nazis blew up. She really wants Patterson to avenge her brother, and so he does. But the demolition squad already wired the lower part of the mine. Patterson must disarm 12 bombs. He deals with the German soldiers, and luckily for him, Jerry's did not make those charges hard to disarm. He just needs to cut the right wire, and the European cultural legacy is safe. War is coming to an end soon, and at this time usually the V2 rockets enter the stage. And Medal of Honor is not different on this one, because Allied command understands that the spoilers of the war will be scientific research. One of the most important are the V2 rockets. OSS was planning to get their plans even before the D-Day. Deep inside the German mountains in the Nordhausen plant, there is a place where the rockets are made. Since Germans consider the V2 program their last hope, this place is very well protected by elite soldiers. The best way to get into the factory is through the V1 bus bomb assembly area. Patterson destroyed some V1s with the charges and opens the blast door to exit through the V2 access tunnel. He made it into the main production area of Nordhausen. He was briefed that V2 rockets are controlled by a navigational gyroscope that's programmed with the target's coordinates before launch. He uses his aeronautical engineering education to recalibrate them. They were dropped right on this whole facility and put an end to German V2 program. Still, Patterson captures some notes, schematics and lists of the Nordhausen scientists. Now he needs to make it to the gantry and manually launch the rocket. Since one of the scientists who cooperates with Allies cut off the communications, the command center won't be able to stop the missile, but Patterson needs to make it to the gantry and manually launch the rocket. Since the blockhouse is designed to survive the V2 explosion, when the rocket comes crashing down, it's actually the safest place to be, so Patterson makes it alive. Germans surrender to the United Nations, war is over, And that's how the game ends.
Informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.